Good morning, good afternoon and good evening all. This is Yorkie065 bringing you episode 3 of my in-depth track guide series. The track that I'll be showing you today is Malaysia. The format for this episode will be a raw uncut hut lap, followed by the same lap again but with a breakdown of corner by corner, looking at braking points, turn-in points and where the apexes of each corner are. So this is the time trial lap then, let's jump straight in. Okay, so now that you've seen the lap, let's move on to the breakdown. So for the start of this lap, you want to try and ensure I get as good exit out of this last corner as possible. As we come out the exit of the corner, you want to get on your curves, also DRS. You should be able to drain most of the curves before the start finish line. Basically, as we come down to the first corner, slowly bring the car over to the left. We're aiming for the braking point here, roughly at the 75 meters. You can brake a little bit later if you do use engine braking, as I did a tiny bit in this instance. But you brake down, shift it down into second gear. Avoid locking the brakes as you turn into the corner. Use first if you need it. Turning the car in, and looking for this point here. This is where your front right wheel should be. As you come through the corner, slowly get back onto the throttle. Try not to use too much, as it can send you out wide. You want to keep the car in the middle of the track, moving it across over into turn 2, aiming to clip your front left wheel at this point here on the inside curb. As you come out of the corner, you want to ensure a nice smooth exit, chase the revs with the throttle, get your DRS open as soon as possible, also use about 30% of your curves as you come through turn 3, keep the DRS open. Coming down the straight now, down towards turn 4, looking for our braking point here at the 100 meter board. So as we come in and hit our braking point, we're going to shift it down into second gear, turning just after the 50 meter board, turning it in, aiming to get our front right wheel on this curb here on the inside of the corner. As we come out of turn 4, you want to get down onto the power as soon as possible, let the car run out wide and use the curb on the outside. Get the DRS open and also start draining your curves down to about 50%. At the DBS board, turn the car in very slightly, keeping the DRS open as we go through turn 5, and then as we come into turn 6, a very small dab of the brake to shut the DRS and flick it in. This you can't do in racing conditions, but you can get away with it in time trial. As we approach turn 7 and 8, this is the braking point that I use here at the 50 meter board. As you come and approach this braking point, hit it nicely, shift it down into 4th gear. You want to turn the car in fairly late, looking to get your front right tyre roughly here, missing the curb on the inside to ensure that you keep a nice smooth flowing line throughout the double apex of this corner. As you can see here, follow the dark racing line markings on the floor, aiming to then clip the curb in this point here, giving you a good fast exit out of this double right-hander. To clipping the curb quite nicely, letting the car run out wide. You can use the curb on the outside if you want to, accelerating up to turn 9. This point here, the 100 meter board, is the braking point that I use for this corner. Try to be smooth in this braking zone, as it's quite easy to lock a front wheel. So shifting down the gears then, coming down into first gear, turn the car in just at the 50 meter board, aiming to get the front right wheel roughly here. I prefer to try and avoid the curb if possible, as it can unsettle the car, but you can get away with it most of the time. As we come out the corner, try and be as smooth as possible in applying the throttle. I'm going to flick the brake bias to the rear as we come through turn 10, approaching turn 11. As we approach this corner, this point here is my reference point. It's the bollard on the inside of the corner. This is what I use to guide me into the apex of the corner, and also use as a reference for the braking point. As soon as you see the bollard, brake down, start shifting into third gear, turn the car in, aiming to hit the apex here on the inside of the curb. As we clip the curb quite nicely on the inside, we're going to get back on the power, let the car run out wide, get the DRS back open, and use a bit of the curb on the outside. We're now approaching turn 12. As we come in, we're going to flip the car in, keeping the DRS wide open, aiming to get the front left tyre at this point here on the inside curb. You do need to be as smooth as possible with the steering through this corner, as we've got the DRS open and too many adjustments can unsettle the rear. Use a bit of the curb on the outside as we come into turn 13, now approaching turn 14. This here is the braking point that I use for turn 14, referencing the concrete on the inside of the track. As we come up and hit the braking point, we're going to let the car drift over to the left, bring it down into second gear, turning in, aiming to get the front right wheel on the inside curb just here. As you can see, I'm a little bit wide. It's mainly from turning in a little bit too late. Providing you clip the apex quite nicely, you should have a good smooth exit out of this corner, getting your DRS open and also using about 20% of your curves as we run over the curb on the outside. As we come down this back straight, we're going to bring the car slowly over to the right hand side of the track, looking for this point here. This is a point that I use as a braking point for this final corner. On the outside is a tiny little dark patch in the white lines. That is my reference point. So hitting that, I'm going to shift it down into second gear. I'm going to turn it in, aiming to get your front left wheel, this point here on the inside curb. As we come through the corner, you want to slowly unwiden the wheel, slowly straightening it up, and bringing the car over to the right hand side of the track, using the rest of the curves, getting the DRS open as soon as possible to therefore complete the lap. So I'm just going to do some quick tips for you guys. As you may have seen on the exit of turn 9, as I came out of the corner, I opened up the DRS to then shut it through the small right hander to then reopen it again. The main reason for this is there's a small bump through that right hand kink on that corner. Even under racing conditions, I short shift up into fourth gear to avoid too much wheel spin or even spinning the car coming through that corner. Also, as you may have seen, I made a mistake coming into the final corner. As I turned in, the rear of the car became unsettled and pulled me away from the apex. To avoid this, all you need to do is just move the brake bias back to normal. I didn't do this down this back straight, and it cost me a good line through the corner and probably a tenth or two. So this is the setup that I use for this time trial lap. The setup that I use for race conditions is extremely similar. The only difference is the gear ratios I pretty much leave them as default. I aim to bring a video in the future looking at setups. It'll be a basic setup guide across all tracks, not track specific, as I do that for each and every individual track guide video. So that's it for this episode of the Track Guide series. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a rating. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth track guide videos and other F1 races. I hope to see you soon, guys. Take care.